I've seen you talk about your penis health quite a lot. Working on your butthole, or is that like not part of your...
We're trying to figure it out. Yeah, we need the anus.
Anus health, or a nice youthful anus.
Old anuses get cancer.
Quite, yeah, no, that is true.
So.
It was in this moment, standing in a multi-millionaire's bathroom talking about the relative health of his butthole, that I started to wonder how my search for immortality had led me here. Ever since man was cursed with knowing he will one day die, he's been trying to find ways to delay that deadline. But this isn't some quest to find a made-up magical elixir or a jacuzzi that washes the wrinkles away. I've been looking for the real deal, and I found I wasn't the only one searching.
Got to get all your NMM.
Because I got NMN in there.
Apparently.
Longevity is a wide church, attended by stem cell scientists, madcap practitioners, and venture capitalists.
And I'm trying to build an institution that will last for 1,000 years.
For the less scrupulous, longevity is just the latest catch-all catchphrase, a biotech buzzword to slap on high profit margin pills and powders, while others are true believers, who see longevity as a secular route to eternal life, not granted by God, but by advanced medicine. In this documentary, I'll be sorting the scientists from the snake oil salesmen and figuring out if anyone really knows how to live forever. My own obsession with not being dead started in January when my own skin tried to kill me. One of my moles got bigger and changed colour, which I understood to be a bad sign, so I paid a guy to cut it off. No matter how small it is, getting a piece of yourself removed inevitably makes you worry about the parts you have left. After a life of string cheese, straight whiskey, and sitting down, it would be fair to say my lifestyle was suboptimal. So I did what any overly online young dude in 2024 does when he needs health advice. I consulted Papa Joe.
So what are you doing personally?
Today, males aged 18 to 35 aren't like the young men of previous generations. On average, they are better educated, but less well off. We are more sensitive to gender inequality, but we're shagging less and marrying later. We don't drink as much, but have fewer friends. We are fatter and spend more time inside. But these are just generational generalizations, the statistical sweet spot where the extremes get flattened. Because many young men are taking their health more seriously than any generation before them. And they are getting their advice from YouTube, Instagram influencers, and podcast hosts. My Strava score is only getting better! Better share it with all the people I never talk to in real life. If you listen to Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, or Stephen Buy My Shit Bartlett, chances are you're a man aged 18 to 35, the most coveted cohort in marketing. Hard to reach and harder to persuade to spend. But when you guys do spend, fuck me, you can create whole industries overnight. Sports betting, cryptocurrency, dried elk meat, supplements, sauna accessories, and inflatable ice baths. This is the Joe Rogan economy. A shopping list for disaffected and digitally native young men who crave fast money, big muscles, and more status. Basically, any product that indirectly sells you on the one thing we all really want: sex with ladies. Some things never change, but because modern man is shyer and less certain of himself, advertisers are starting to exploit an anxiety and self-hatred that was once only the reserve of women, aged 13 to dead. Women have had the fear of aging prematurely rubbed in their face since the advent of marketing itself. The term anti-aging first came into use at the start of the 20th century, but became widespread in the decade of Botox, hairspray, and sky-high divorce rates. The era where boomer women watched the skin around their eyes get crunchier coincided with them watching their husbands start to eye up their Gen X colleagues.
I don't intend to grow old gracefully.
Oil of Olay.
I'm fighting it every step of the way.
Cosmetic companies like Dior sold creams crammed with special active anti-aging ingredients. And some of these do work. The effectiveness of sunscreen, hyaluronic acid, and retinol are backed up by long-term scientific studies. Sunscreen especially. Ideally, you should wear it every day you expose yourself to my attempted murderer. Today, the anti-aging racket is one of the best in marketing history, and the sector is dominated by a few big cosmetic and pharmaceutical companies. they produce an enormous array of almost identical skincare products, as the list of actually anti-aging ingredients hasn't changed much since the 1980s. The global anti-aging market is worth more than $60 billion and is expected to reach $100 billion by 2030. But isn't all this a bit skin deep? After all, any population with enough disposable income to blow on inedible creams is also an aging population.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID.
The market of people worrying about getting old is only getting larger and older for the foreseeable future. And this is the problem that longevity seeks to answer.
I think exercise is the single most important longevity drug we have.
There are thousands of companies and researchers working in longevity today. Luckily, they can all be oversimplified into this Venn diagram. Okay, first, there are the health span dude bros who promote lifestyle changes as longevity practices. Fitness, sleep, nutrition, mouth tape, whatever. They are usually scientists or just straight up fitness influencers. They stop shy of suggesting you can reach a superhuman age, instead believing that they can help you die late and in basically good health. Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia sit firmly in this camp. No podcaster has ridden the longevity wave better than Andrew Huberman. He's gathered an audience of millions by getting on guests who know their shit. The Hubermensch is the perfect figurehead for the health-conscious modern man. He's smart and swole. He's got the academic creds and the aerobic exercise pecs to inspire confidence. He boils his personal health advice down to a set of easy-to-understand protocols, so it won't take a PhD to become a pretty huge dude. Earlier this year, Huberman was exposed by New York Magazine for having several secret girlfriends simultaneously. It was written like a hit piece, but read more like a paid-for puff piece to me and the rest of his mostly male audience. Hey, don't listen to this guy, or you might end up with bulging biceps and the mental clarity necessary to juggle 6 chicks at once in your late 40s. Oh no. All you need is the Huberman Labs podcast, a gym membership, and a second phone.
So you can't have long-term affairs with 6 different partners.
Yeah, unless he's juggling multiple phone accounts or something.
Right. And some men try to do that, but I think it could be very taxing.
Yeah, well, and in this day and age, it's...
But Huberman is only a Stanford-educated neuroscientist with a perfectly chiseled jaw, so to get a full picture of longevity, he gets on guests like Peter Attia.
Now, the medical definition of health span is the period of time by which you are free from disability and disease.
Dr. Attia is probably the best regarded expert that attaches himself fully to the label of longevity. His 2023 book, Outlive, has been a runaway bestseller, and for him, longevity means something quite simple and reasonable. His basic message is that medicine is stuck in the treat the disease mindset, but it needs to put greater emphasis on preventing disease in the first place. This is what health span is all about, adopting the best practices to ensure a long and healthy life.
So I don't believe there is any scenario ever in which we avoid death. I am 100% in the camp that says we are all going to die. Doesn't matter how much biohacking you do, we are all going to die. I have a very low tolerance for nonsense and buffoonery.
Dr. Pete don't believe you can biohack your way to a superhuman age, but he's promoting ways to keep your body younger for longer. And this is perfectly scientific. People really do age at different rates from one another. Genetics and lifestyle play a huge part. And like most longevity promoters, Attia is insistent that the best drug for longevity is actually just exercise.
Having very high cardiorespiratory fitness, so having a VO2 max that is elite, we would define that as the top 2.5% of the population, compared to below average, is a 5-fold reduction in all-cause mortality. Wow. Death from any kind. We actually now have pretty good data as to the fact that strength is more important than muscle mass. We just use muscle mass as a good proxy for strength, but if you just focus on strength, that's the metric that matters. It's about a 3-fold reduction in all-cause mortality.
After watching this single podcast episode, I finally decided to take my muscles and my health seriously. Huberman recommends a mix of resistance training, cardiovascular workouts, and flexibility exercises. Following the Hubes advice, I went from getting 0 hours of exercise a week to some exercise. I started resistance training every other morning, as that's when cortisol is naturally higher in the body. Instead of getting an app to deliver me piping cold fast food, I actually bought and cooked with fresh ingredients. Low carb, reduced sodium, lean white meat and fish combined with heaping piles of leafy green vegetables. White bread was out, 1 cup of brown rice was in. On Huberman's advice, I waited 90 minutes after waking before consuming coffee and cut out the caffeine at 2 p.m. sharp, which is when I timed my cardiovascular workouts, 30 minutes of running or rowing every other afternoon, followed by a 30-minute sauna sesh. Which is my favourite piece of longevity advice so far, as it involves sitting down. Huberman Labs recommends thrice weekly sauna sessions. Papa Joe cooks himself 4 times a week for 20 minutes, evidence from his many sauna selfies and beef jerky skin tone.
Your blood pressure is virtually never measured correctly in the doctor's office.
That cuff they put on and that little squeeze bulb, that's not
if
accurate.
you look at the rigor with which you need to measure a person's blood pressure, the right way to do it is the person has to be sitting like this for 5 minutes doing nothing.
Okay, folks, so when you go to the doctors now, you don't let them take your blood pressure
out of the
you've been
gate.
Sitting for 5 minutes. And that doesn't include in the waiting room. Because if you walk
because
from
then
the
you
waiting
get up
room,
and walk over, right.
I also started to take my blood pressure every other day, as this was the one metric that cannot be tracked by a wearable. And I was shocked to find I had pretty elevated blood pressure.
That's quite high. I wasn't expecting that. Fuck.
But after embracing my new podcast-inspired, muscle-focused workout regime for all of 2 weeks, I was already having trouble keeping up my enthusiasm. Building muscle was taking time, and that was the one thing I was running out of. Besides, what was the point of all this effort if I was only going to extend my life by a measly few decades? Surely, there must be some products out there that could help me live even longer. This is where the second major group of longevity advocates come in. The lifespan loudmouths. And they are going to help us get to the 22nd century. Folks like the 2 Daves, Dave Asprey and David Sinclair, who believe we might be able to biohack our way to 180 with advances in modern medicine.
You can extend human life. You can already reverse your age. I age at 72% the rate of average people.
Your goal is to live to 180. And
at least 180. I don't want to put a cap on it.
Lifespanners are mostly scientific researchers / entrepreneurs with a product to sell or a venture in need of funding. They go on podcasts, cite rodent studies, and wave their supplements around.
I eat healthy. I try to skip meals. I also take supplements. And in fact, most of my colleagues are in the field of aging.
Yes, longevity supplements. You've seen supplements sold by everyone from Gwyneth Paltrow to Alex Jones. So if you're cynical about their effectiveness, you are right to be. They are cheap to produce and can be sold for an outrageous markup.
So I take NMN every morning.
What is NMN?
So what NMN does, and this other molecule called NR, which both you can get on the internet, they boost the body's levels of NAD back up to youthful levels again. And if we give them to mice, these molecules to mice or even to worms or yeast, they live longer and they're super healthy.
NMN is what I take, which is not to be confused with M&M's, the chocolate.
David Sinclair takes a daily dose of NMN and is largely responsible for its reputation as a longevity super supplement, something that he directly benefits from as the co-founder of Metro Biotech. And look, long-time NMN treatment has been shown to increase median lifespan by 8.5% in mice. Ah yes, in mice. Those dreaded 2 words that appear at the end of every headline that promises an extravagant medical breakthrough. Mice might be somewhat similar to us on a mammal level, but there aren't nearly enough similarities to prove that the drugs that will work on them will work on us. More than that, keeping a bunch of them alive and in similar health is surprisingly hard, especially when you're juicing them to the whiskers with research chemicals. There's a ton of other variables too: food, temperature, gender, stress, cage size. So outcomes are highly variable. Regardless, longevity research relies on these studies heavily. And here is where the perverse economic incentives of biotech kick in. Once your theoretical longevity company has scored some successful rodent trials and acquired millions in venture capital, you better get that product to market or you'll risk the wrath of your investors, shareholders, and employees. People's livelihoods now depend on your success, even if human trials or further research prove your drug isn't the longevity miracle you once claimed it could be. Whatever happens, you better move some pills. Since NMN first hit the market in 2018, it has been sold in supplements and drinks by a dizzying array of companies. Critics argue that oral consumption doesn't even work and that the drug is overhyped or simply a placebo. The reason so many lifespan experts end up acting like influencers is to ensure their own longevity, because if they don't, their investors might murder them. Their product might be nothing special, but slap a longevity sticker on them alongside a premium price tag and you might still turn a profit. Now, I am not saying that scientists like David Sinclair are scam artists, but I am also not saying that. He probably believes in his product, and certainly believes in his research. He is just a victim of the perilous economics of biotech investing.
I think that it is extremely likely that people born today will, on average, live to 1,000.
Then there are researchers like Aubrey de Grey, who take things even further, believing that it's possible for humans to achieve extreme longevity, potentially living for several centuries or millennia. And considering it looks like that he's already been alive forever, I'm inclined to hear him out. He's best known for coining the phrase longevity escape velocity, referring to the idea that as medical tech advances every year, we get closer and closer to allowing individuals to avoid age-related illness indefinitely. His theory is a bit like Moore's law, except Moore's law is based on the number of transistors you can fit on a microchip, and longevity escape velocity is based on magic numbers that Aubrey pulled out of his wizard beard.
To just cut to the mathematical chase, the answer is that there is no actual half-life anymore. That the curve, radioactive decay curve, eventually, it's asymptotic to zero. Eventually all the atoms decay, right? The curve that you get if you do this calculation is not asymptotic to zero anymore. Most people will live literally forever in this scenario.
Now, some of these guys are just optimists working on cutting-edge medicine, but others are the scientific equivalent of televangelists, using longevity as a sales pitch to dupe the desperate. Do you yearn for the white-knuckle thrill of mowing down your fellow man in the heat of battle? Then welcome to War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Escape the boredom of your everyday life by jumping in the driver's seat of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major countries. And War Thunder is now available to play for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. And this isn't some hitbox baby simulation. It has one of the most sophisticated vehicle damage models in gaming. War Thunder is so realistic, it'll give you PTSD. With the incredible X-ray view damage, you'll see exactly what violence your weapons have wrought. Join a worldwide community of 70 million players who are waiting to blow you up, including me. What I love about War Thunder is that I can drive tanks and fly planes from any nation or era. 1 minute I'm giving Jerry what for in a Spitfire over Nazi-occupied France. The next I am blasting around in my Soviet F-13 conducting bombing runs in Afghanistan. The possibilities are endless in War Thunder, with a game mode for every kind of player, and in-depth customization with countless camouflage options and historical markings. Download War Thunder today with my link below, and you will also receive the massive Eagle of Valor bonus pack, available for a limited time. The problem with the term longevity is that it's broader than Andrew Huberman's shoulders. There is no scientific or regulatory standard for what can be considered a longevity product. From Beverly Hills to Singapore, private clinics are offering human growth hormone and testosterone replacement therapy as longevity treatments. So today, many middle-aged men are attending these clinics to top up their supply in order to maintain adolescent levels of muscle growth and retention. Along with anabolic steroids, human growth hormone is also a common enhancement used by professional athletes, despite being banned by the anti-doping agency. This has garnered it a reputation of danger and illegality, even though it can be acquired through a prescription in most countries. But there are serious side effects associated with excessive use, like acne outbreaks, mood swings, and heart explosions, or to put it in medical terms, cardiomegaly, the enlargement of the heart muscle leading to heart failure. Which, sure, sounds bad. But there was another side effect associated with human growth hormone that interested me more. Fucking winning!
I am the fastest man in the world. I've broken Usain Bolt's world record, but you've never heard of me. I am a proud, enhanced athlete. Now, we have important allies in our battle for bodily freedom, as we build the first sporting event that allows performance enhancements and pays all athletes.
According to this ad, there are a bunch of secret roid freaks that are so jacked that those dweebs at the Olympics want them banned. And it's not just roids. Apparently there's a whole world of injectables, pills, and risky therapies that I could enhance myself with. There weren't any affiliate links for me to click, so I did the next best thing and went to meet the organizer of the Enhanced Games himself.
Aaron, you're a successful entrepreneur, litigator, and so I guess my first question is, why are you doing this?
I'm the kind of person who sees a problem in the world and decides that it is my responsibility to solve it. Yeah, so this is a Barack Obama.
Another Ubermensch.
Yeah, a Superman. And you know, in some ways my politics is very libertarian. But I do really deeply admire Barack Obama. 44% of elite track and field athletes admit to using banned performance enhancements. 1% get caught.
So your solution to that is to let them cheat?
No.
By the Olympic standard?
It's not cheating.
By the Olympic standard it is?
Yes, but that's also, you know, a broken ancient standard. Most people think of banned performance enhancements as being illegal, right? But actually, so much of what is banned by the Olympic Committee is available over the counter. And so we want to embrace science and we want to be honest. Yeah, so this sword is a British diplomatic sword.
Ooh.
From the reign of Queen Victoria.
Oh, nice.
It's a diplomatic sword because it doesn't have an edge.
It's a disruptor's apartment, but with a love for the British establishment. There's a little bit of a contradiction there.
There are plenty of contradictions in my life. I'll give you that. Like I'm a technology innovator, you know, but I live in a 400-year-old house.
In a recent Guardian piece, you said that performance-enhancing drugs could be a route to anti-aging, to a fountain of youth. And I suppose beyond the enhanced games, I'm wondering, do you see this as something that's going to be available for all of us?
I've been reading my business plan. I think of the enhanced games like Formula One. Formula One is a combination of the athlete and the engineer. The enhanced games are the athlete and the scientist.
I was going to ask you, if you are enhanced, and if that's the case, how are you enhancing?
We're all enhanced, right?
What about you?
I don't think of enhanced as a binary. Are you natural or are you enhanced? Enhanced is a spectrum.
Sure.
From wearing glasses or drinking coffee, or the best enhancements are the cheapest ones, getting 8 hours a day of sleep.
That's not banned by the Olympics though. That wouldn't be followed by the enhanced games. I'm talking about steroids.
Physical enhancements basically make you like a teenager, right? They make you strong, they make you more excitable, but also I think they affect your mental acuity in some ways. And so at this very moment in time where, as I was discussing earlier, my job is to do a lot of the boring things to make enhanced games a reality. I have to focus on optimizing my mental acuity.
You found human growth hormone to be helpful there?
Not yet. I'm only 38 years old.
I can't ignore the fact that were this to go on, the enhanced games was to be a roaring success, it would be very entertaining. I will be watching, I can be certain of that. But it would also be an excellent advert for pharmaceutical companies.
And I believe that 75% of all television advertising in the United States by revenue is now for pharmaceutical.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you'll be getting a little slice of that pie? Is that the idea?
I think so, and I think that ultimately science is real.
So this isn't just scientific progress, it's social progress.
Absolutely.
On your website you compare athletes revealing that they're enhanced to coming out. Do you think that's a comparison to sexuality? Do you think that's valid?
Absolutely, right. And as a gay man myself, I see strong parallels between the experience of the LGBT community and the enhanced community.
They're an oppressed minority?
We're hiding in the darkness. It's happening in the dark alley. It's deeply unsafe, right? I think of being an enhanced athlete today like being gay in the 1970s. You can't talk about it with your doctor. It leads to unsafe circumstances. It's literally done in the dark alley. And in many ways, we're creating the first Pride Parade.
I wasn't sure about everything Aaron said, but he made me realize I had to think bigger. The podcast bros had some good ideas, but they weren't selling any secret, esoteric knowledge that'll help me really live forever. I wanted easy answers, silver bullets, and miracle drugs. For that, we have to look towards the final circle of longevity. The never die dreamers. These guys really believe we could all live indefinitely, so long as we unite in our fight against dying. These guys aren't always scientists. Instead, they tend to be libertarian, crypto-crazy techno-utopians, people with a quasi-religious faith in the transformative power of high-tech bullshit.
Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, and I am the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party.
Fuck this!
According to my calcumatricians, if we combine AI, biotech, and this toaster, I'll cure aging for good! Most of these guys are wannabe cult leaders, or just oddballs who spend their days shitposting on Twitter. People like Kai Micah Mills, CEO of CryoPets, the company that wants to defeat death by freezing your cat. Yeah.
Essentially, what CryoPets is we're building here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're building a hybrid facility where it's essentially half animal hospital, half cryonics facility, and we can offer real lab quality cryopreservations to pets.
CryoPets is one of a number of very real companies that support vitalism, or the Vitalists, a united moral ideology and non-profit based in Delaware, with the modest goal of allowing every human to live in optimal health indefinitely.
So vitalism is the revolutionary movement against biological aging and death, or you could say for unlimited lifespans and peak health, if you wanted to say it in the affirmative.
The organization is the brainchild of co-founder Adam Grise, who is nothing if not ambitious. He wants to unite everyone that agrees with their creed and mobilize/monetize anyone who is dead serious, alive serious, about it. Lucky for all of humanity, the Vitalists have a 3-point plan to make immortality happen. Number 1, unify supporters. Great. Number 2, spark and grow a network of Vitalists. Don't see how that's different from the first one, but okay. And number 3, transform jurisdictions into longevity states. Huh? Yeah, this is where it all gets a little bit kooky. For reasons, many in the longevity space are also hell-bent on starting their own country.
So what is Vitalia? In one sentence, it's a city that builds longevity companies. And it's centered around one commandment. We're here to make death optional.
Pop-up cities, tax havens, and theoretical cyber jurisdictions will be the home bases we need in our war against dying. So yeah, longevity is a wide church, and Brian Johnson has become its poster child, partly by staking a claim at its dead, overlapping center. If you've spent more than 20 minutes on the internet since 2023, then you've probably had a Brian Johnson jump scare. Ah! But Brian isn't your average fitness influencer. He has his sights set on immortality at its most literal. Brian claims to be the most measured man on planet Earth, a claim he justifies by monitoring every organ he can for signs of aging and then taking action to slow or reverse these metrics. Through this golden path of internal inquiry, Brian believes there is a non-zero chance that he could sustain his life indefinitely, or at least beyond the current human limit. It is this quest for eternal life that has won him many disciples who are willing to preach his don't die philosophy.
Don't die.
Yeah, I know. You make new friends, that we feel like we're part of community.
And Brian is no stranger to religious thinking. He was born into a strict Mormon family and had started his own family while he was still studying at Brigham Young University. He made his fortune a few years later as the founder of Braintree, a web and mobile payment company that acquired Venmo and was later sold to PayPal for many millions of dollars.
We help online businesses accept credit card payments. And so our customers include local Chicago companies like 37 Signals. We work with Living Social, GitHub, Fab.com, Uber, and we power their credit card payments.
After becoming filthy rich, Brian experienced a reverse road to Damascus moment. He lost his faith, got divorced, and contemplated suicide for many years.
One needs to be a problem snob, that everyone can make meaningful contributions to humanity. And that's what I want to talk about today, is how we can do that.
He only found his purpose again when he started Project Blueprint in 2021, an age-reversing super project that he is now utterly devoted to.
What I would give to go back in time, it is so much harder to reverse aging damage than it is to prevent it. I started losing my hair in my early 30s. It's been a difficult thing. I've had to work really hard to try to keep a head of hair.
Brian reached global notoriety in 2023 when he underwent what he called the world's first multi-generational plasma exchange with his dad and son.
One liter out, 1 liter in for me, 1 liter out for me, liter into Dad.
Right after the family Johnson posed for this photo shoot that looked more like an incest-themed Calvin Klein ad. The supposed benefits of this family fluid swap came from a few controversial rodent studies, where older mice were given blood and organs from their younger counterparts and experienced some reverse aging effects. Maybe, possibly. Now, there is no direct evidence to suggest such an exchange would work in humans. And that's probably why the Johnsons haven't conducted any blood-sharing ceremonies since, perhaps revealing that the whole endeavor was more about publicity than longevity.
I hope he gets hit by a bus. The thing on this though, I wonder what happens if a bus gets hit by me?
The internet loved to hate it. The story was shared across social media and the mainstream press as people clowned on Brian or openly scorned him as a symbol of big tech hubris. But to Brian, the whole endeavor was a roaring success as it turbocharged his public reputation. It has since formed the basis for all of his self-aware stunts, using his sincere strangeness as a path to viral infamy.
Happy you're here, come on in.
Thank you very much. First though, I wanted to make sure Brian was the real deal. So I offered him something that no mere mortal could resist. So I couldn't tempt you with a sidecar donut. It's the best donuts in LA.
Whoa.
You know. I'm personally very partial to the maple bacon donut. You know.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is legal.
Like, is even smelling it giving you like
a
little bit of a contact
I
high?
can model the whole thing. Like, how is heroin against the law and how is this legal? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Now, if all you know about Brian is the blood boy bit, then I can understand why you'd be skeptical of whatever he's selling. What he is selling is Blueprint, his own personal hyper-disciplined routine for diet, sleep, and exercise.
We basically took all my protocol and we put it into as few pills and 1 drink. And so that's the longevity mix, and then 8 pills from Blueprint.
You must be pretty pleased to not be taking 200 pills a day. I imagine that took a lot of your time.
Yeah, it was the max was 111.
111?
Yeah.
That was your record, wasn't it?
Yeah, but still, it's a lot of pills. So yeah, and I'm down quite a bit. So it's really nice.
You know what the most ironic way for you to die would be? To choke on your daily
And
supplements.
It's that or getting hit by a bus.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed to happen.
His diet consists of the same vegan meals every day, and his last meal is consumed before noon. This is to mitigate even the minor damage that ordinary digestion can do to the cells in the gastrointestinal tract.
It's about preventing your cells from aging, right?
Exactly.
And is that centrally what the protocol is about? Is about to slow the degeneration of your cells?
Entirely.
Okay.
Yeah. So like our bodies naturally age every day, every second of every day. And the question is, how much can we slow those things?
Right.
And then once the damage occurs, can we reverse the damage?
Well, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Exactly.
Any kind of reversal.
The Blueprint is a lifestyle designed to protect and maintain every cell in his body. It is a data-driven, medically tested algorithm for life extension and youth retention. So I wanted to see if I could recreate it on a budget. First of all, I cut down on the calories and swapped the string-ed cheese and beef bowls for organic vegetables, and replaced the contents of my chocolate shelf with Brian's own nutty pudding. A grey-brown nutty Nesquik-style treat that I started off tolerating and ended up almost enjoying. I followed Brian's supplement regime to the letter, which I choked down, not with water, but with Brian-branded extra virgin olive oil, which he also promotes as a longevity superfood under the ironic label of snake oil. Wink wink, you guys, you see? He's self-aware.
So Brian actually drinks a few shots of this every day, and I don't know, maybe I'm a culinary idiot. I was born British after all, but turns out not only can you drink extra virgin olive oil, I like it. It is good. It just sort of like burns like it's going to kill me.
His exercise regime is 6 hours of cardio and strength training every week. This is apparently the optimal routine to maintain his muscle cells without overexerting them. Brian is a big proponent of healthy posture as well, even claiming that sorting his posture out actively averted his own early demise.
I had internal jugular vein stenosis. These internal pipes that have blood flow from my brain were restricted because of bad posture.
In order to fix my own chronic case of nerd neck, I copied Brian's exercises to the letter and bought a standing desk to keep me upright and above ground. I also upped my 3 hours of exercise a week to a Brian-approved 6, making my way to the gym in the afternoon based on the Twink Terminator's own muscle building schedule. But combining this with his advice on UV rays was a real challenge without the benefits of a home gym. Brian avoids sunlight for most of the day, ideally only exposing his skin cells to natural light in the early morning. This is when the UV register is at its lowest, as UV can damage DNA cells and accelerate aging. Like Brian, I got some sunlight in the early morning, but had to make my journeys to the gym under the cover of this special UV umbrella. And admittedly, this lifestyle edition made me feel like the fucking Elephant Man, but I was far from finding my final freakish form. Brian's sleep routine is meticulous. He sleeps alone in a temperature-controlled room on a temperature-controlled mattress. According to the data collected from his Whoop band, he is in the top 1% of sleepers. Perfect sleep means optimal recovery, repairing the cells in your brain and the rest of your body as perfectly as possible. Aping Brian here was a greater challenge to my status quo, as my hobbies mostly involve staying up late, getting stoned, and bathing myself in blue light. This had to change, so I started by whooping myself into shape. My tummy just rumbled then. The Whoop band is the one commercially available wearable that Brian Johnson swears by, an always-on fitness tracker that keeps him aware of his sleep, strain and stress, and crucially, heart rate variability. A high HRV indicates good overall health and that your body can efficiently adapt to stress, from illness, injury, or, the stress of devoting your entire life to reaching the overall high score for minutes spent breathing. My Whoop data showed me that my HRV was dog shit. Apparently, a month of exercise hadn't dented a decade of cannabis-addled content binging. So I gave up the ganj and started to follow my Whoop's daily advice more strictly. Brian swears by full-body red light therapy, which he believes will enhance cellular energy and promote tissue repair. Now, I couldn't afford to get one of these full-body dealies, so instead I ordered this Current Body's red light LED therapy mask. If this isn't the face of a man taking his skincare seriously, I don't know what is. Even if it also looks like that I've just killed a robot and I'm now wearing his face as my face. Using Current Body's mask, I could now toast my epidermis and reverse my twink death, all without leaving the sofa. Which was helpful because I was fucking exhausted.
Yeah, I feel like my face mask is like not cutting the mustard, man. Like, this is what I need. Although, am I supposed to be fully clothed here? Would you be doing this in the nudes?
That's right. All right, here we go. So you can now compare your mask to this guy.
Oh, okay.
2.
Man, I feel like I'm on the sun.
4, and then I have a handheld temperature device, and so what we'd normally do, just to check, is we would look at the skin temps. So you would heat up to around 104 Fahrenheit. So you'll get pretty toasty.
Oh man, I'm toasting, like for real. Oh, blackout.
That's my penis measurement device.
Wait, which one? Sorry, what?
This is my penis measurement device.
Don't take this the wrong way. It is quite small. So what?
Yeah. So what you do is this guy comes out, you put it around the shaft, and you think it's going to be annoying. It's actually fine. And so I took my baseline measurements 6 months ago, and then 2 weeks ago, I logged 179 minutes.
Almost of pure hard-on.
Of pure boner.
Okay, nice.
Through 5 erections. So almost as long as the movie Titanic. And so nighttime erections are a meaningful bio-age marker for cardiovascular health, sexual health, and physiological health.
So, wait, your boners are better than an 18-year-old?
Yes.
So technically your dick is underage?
Yes.
Be careful where you put that thing, man.
Yes.
I'm looking out for you.
Yeah, so yeah, this is like a, whatever. There's a story and a reason and evidence behind every single thing here. Some worked, some didn't. I need to clean it out though.
The CVS receipt for this must be like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Old anuses get cancer.
Quite, yeah. No, that is true.
So.
Trying to keep it, okay. I don't know what else to ask. What are you doing for your butt that's keeping it young?
A good diet. So taking care of your colon with a good diet. So avoid bad stuff like donuts. Eat good stuff.
Brian is paying a series of medical professionals to track every organ that can deliver data for signs of aging.
Because we took care of my heart and my lungs and my brain, and I said, how do I get the most measured penis in the world?
And is then embarking on a series of interventions to reverse these signs.
And so if you take the penis, you can say, you can measure it according to sensitivity, according to erectile strength, according to like a whole bunch of variables. And we said, can we make my penis legitimately younger?
I hesitate to ask this in your bathroom.
Yeah.
But are you measuring how big your loads are?
Yeah.
So you're measuring amount of jizz that you're producing.
That's right. There's even there's a prediction market that is predicting whether my load size will increase or not on the next measurement interval. It measures on sperm health, on number of sperm, on motility. And so like, for example, in the past year, my sperm health has improved by like a few 100%. So I just left the doctor and I got an A+ on my sperm test for an 18-year-old.
In many ways, I already related to Brian. He wanted to stay healthy so that he could keep doing what he loves forever, experimenting with a bunch of unregulated drugs.
I don't actively do psychedelics. I have done psychedelics. In fact, I did ketamine wearing the kernel brain interface. We had this question, what happens when you take ketamine?
Right.
And typically you ask people and they'll give you your opinion, like I was in another dimension or I experienced this or that, but you can't provide numbers. And so I wore the interface. I measured my brain for 5 days before, during ketamine, and then 30 days after. So we got to see what happened in my brain. It was the first time ever someone had done that. So it was cool to see it.
So it didn't get included into the blueprint then, so no longevity benefits of ketamine, as far as you can see?
It's not yet studied. I mean,
okay.
Potentially,
So maybe,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, when I took it, I just ended up passed out in a bathroom somewhere. So I don't know if it really got me anywhere.
What was the setting that you...
It was a long time ago now. I think it was a house party sometime, doing a little bit too much of it. But, you know, certainly recreational rather than scientific.
Did you do it intramuscular or was it...
straight up the hooter. So,
yeah.
His Ned Flanders, no risk, no fun, health-optimized lifestyle is all in service of his more adventurous side. He spends over $2 million a year on his health, but most of that cost goes to the professionals that are prescribing him treatments that I can neither afford or pronounce.
Gut health, crown,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Microbiome stuff.
That's right.
All right, nice. Wine?
Someone brought this to the dinner last night. So
Convenient story.
And then this one is the new one I just got in today. This is...
Oh, this is today?
Yep.
Because the protocol's always changing, isn't it? You're always trying to add stuff in, take stuff out. I guess the obvious question to that is that, do you really know if these things are going to interact in a way that's going to be negative?
Probably, yep. So we try to approach it in two ways. One is we try to stagger as best we can. And two is we use models from the pharma world that you can use statistical-based models to try to isolate effect. So you can say, does this intervention, is it responsible for this given effect?
Okay.
It can use probabilities. And so we do try to methodically approach the process that way. We're not just throwing a bunch of stuff in and be like, how's it going?
But there is a degree of risk.
Certainly, yeah. It's not perfect.
So have you yet found some examples where something negative has happened?
We had an experience like that, yep.
Okay.
So I was trying to rejuvenate my thymus. I had to fix this. This lid came off. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be. Okay, I'll fix this in a minute.
These interventions are not available on his website, nor does he recommend them to anyone who isn't him. You see, it's what Brian isn't selling that really sets him apart.
Yeah, Norditropin. This is the guy. I did
okay. Oh, this is Novo Nordisk, right?
Yeah.
So they've been making bank right now with
Yeah.
Ozempic. Okay.
So it was successful. It rejuvenated my thymus by 7 years. So I de-aged. It's huge. But it came at a cost where my blood glucose levels were off, I had intracranial pressure, my sleep was whack. So it just kind of wrecked a whole bunch of stuff at the same time.
I see.
So it had the effect, but to your question, yes, it had a whole bunch of side effects and we're like, this is not worth it. Too much is going wrong. And so
was that quite an anxiety-inducing experience? It must be, I mean, you're thinking so often about how not to die.
Yeah.
So when you see something go wrong, I can imagine that sets off the alarm bells in your head a little bit.
It's okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just part of the process.
Oh, you're a chill dude.
Yeah.
That would freak me out.
If something seems to work, he keeps doing it. If it doesn't, and the data shows that it might be killing him, he stops. He's also rolling the dice with risky stem cell treatments, human growth hormone, and unregulated gene therapy, among dozens of others. He is committed to his blueprint and the prophecy of life-extending technology. But before I could understand where this faith came from, I had to understand the science that drove this faith.
You know, I'm not the most socially adept person in the world. Yet to meet a YouTuber who is, in fact. But I'm very at home with, I don't know, tech nutters and crypto goons. They're my people. I'm just curious about anyone who claims that they can change the world or what it means to be human. I think, even if you think they're delusional, you've always got to try and hear them out.
Because nobody wants to be old and sick if you can stay young and healthy.
Absolutely.
And I think we are now at a point where, for the first time ever, scientists are able to rejuvenate cells. Not all of them yet. So we are not yet at living forever today, but we are definitely at a point where we can lengthen the health span. That's the time you live without any age-induced sicknesses, basically.
I mean, I see occasionally a sort of religious thinking.
Yeah, to a certain extent, maybe replaces some former cults like religion and other ones. So literally, yeah, maybe the biohackers are ultimately trying to replace, I don't know, a higher force or God.
I mean,
focusing on themselves.
That is what the longevity industry is. It is promising the possibility of eternal life, and I mean, the church has been doing very well on that.
That's same. Why it has many similarities. Yeah.
Now, longevity investors are an interesting breed. They tend to have a high appetite for risk, a disdain for authority, and a borderline delusional belief in the transformative power of technology. So it makes sense that nearly every investor I met at Davos was also, at one point, leveraged to the tits on crypto. Part of your job is sort of figuring out the dreamers, and I think it's fair to say there are a couple con men in this environment because it's potentially so lucrative, and also, you know, people are promising outrageous returns. I just wonder, how do you sort the wheat from the chaff?
Well, you know, I come from cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And when you look in 2017, the ICO's initial coin offerings, there you had con men.
Mm-hmm.
Hi Fritz. Ja.
Hey buddy. You must have encountered people you consider to be like delusional, con men. If that's fair to say.
It definitely runs the gamut. I mean, if you look historically, there have been people in the 1920s. There was a guy sewing monkey testicles to people in the claim that it would extend their virility. And you're like, you know, this field has a history of these kinds of people, and we need to shed that image. So yes, there is even today it has its fair share.
Here, you have some people who want to sell snake oil, but in comparison to what we have 2017 in crypto, nothing. It's a relatively serious industry. The question is long shots. So there is promising candidate molecules which might become candidate drugs, but that's a very, very long process. So it's biotech. And there you basically have to shoot 14 arrows so that one medicament comes to the market and 13 will be complete losses. So it's very binary. But that's what we try to avoid. So we don't go into this hardcore biotech business models.
Most biotech firms worth their salt are based in the US, where they are also subject to the whims and approval processes of the FDA, which is what turns biotech investing into a game of regulatory Russian roulette. Investors can pour millions into a firm for years, perhaps based on some promising rodent research, only for said product to faceplant during one of the many hurdles in the FDA's long approval process. Positive trial results can lead to sky-high increases in stock price, while negative results can halve the value of your investment in minutes. This is what crypto and biotech really have in common: extreme volatility, and the kind of investors who thrive on it. This lunch that I'd snagged an invite to was organised by Maximon, a Swiss company that provides financing for longevity entrepreneurs. Their mission is to make that final decade of life a little less miserable by funding the companies with real potential to alleviate age-related illness. I personally would have taken that one down. They are hosting companies that believe they can slow aging, rejuvenate the body at a molecular level, and even resurrect the dead.
Tomorrow offers human cryopreservation. Same stuff as you would do with cells, right? But for humans. In cases where current medical technology cannot save the patient.
Yes, that's right, cryonics. Unique in the longevity space because it is the only practice that pitches the idea of life after death. A sales pitch that requires a serious leap of faith.
Currently it's only Europe. We're the largest organization here. With us, there's somewhere between 400 and 500 people have signed up today to be cryopreserved should they die. And then the people who have been actually cryopreserved, that's still, a handful.
The option to turn grandma into a corpsicle has been available in the US since the first wave of sci-fi space age optimism in the 1960s. The Cryonic Society of California was founded in 1966 and elected TV repairman Bob Nelson as their president. But the upstart corpse freezing company didn't have much of a shelf life. Some bodies were frozen too fast and cracked during their initial freezing. Their operating costs were also too high. Their vault in Chatsworth famously failed in the 1970s, leaving their customers to thaw out like hot dogs in the sink. Thanks to Silicon Valley, we are riding a new wave of big tech optimism. Emil and his co-founder are riding that wave by becoming the first to offer cryonic freezing in mainland Europe.
If history is any indication, the world has been getting better and better consistently. You just need to zoom out a bit, right? There's not a single time in history where I would say, I'd rather live in that year.
The issue with cryonics, beyond the obvious, is that it's a solution that is highly dependent on future advances in other fields. Rather extraordinary ones that turn serious conversations on cryonics into a spitballing session for a sci-fi short story competition.
We do brain only as well.
You
so
brain
you can do
only.
whole body or the brain.
Great,
Yeah.
because I was wondering if it's theoretically possible to put my brain into a monkey body, if that was an option.
Not anytime soon.
Damn.
But it might be possible to put your brain into a cloned body.
Okay. Now, you're probably aware that stem cell research has a slightly mixed reputation, but may not know why. The most useful kind of stem cells are pluripotent embryonic stem cells, and until 2006, the only way to get them was by harvesting them from human embryos. In the Bush era, this caused a bit of a moral panic, and a presidential veto that banned any research that destroyed or created new human embryos for this purpose. This was later overturned by Obama, but the FDA remains very cautious when approving stem cell therapies and clinical trials for another, better reason. The real problem with stem cell therapy is that when these unspecified cells are injected into the body, they can also become cancerous growths. And according to the scientific literature, cancer's effect on longevity is, not good. But ambitious researchers and desperate medical tourists have become impatient with the FDA's slow approval process, skipping the process by going overseas where regulations are either less severe or just easier to ignore.
This is BioAccelerator. It's the world leader in stem cell therapy.
I did stem cells in Colombia with BioAccelerator out in Colombia. Man, my neck was 100%, man. I wrestled my whole life.
I've been there. They saved my back. I couldn't golf if it wasn't for them.
Longevity enthusiasts are following suit, willing to bet it all on untested therapies that promise a shot at rejuvenation with a risk. Some investors who have an even greater appetite for risk are willing to stuff a few more bullets in the barrel. They are funding risky experimental medical procedures and offering them straight to the consumer without the FDA's approval. Honduras has surrendered a piece of this island to host a bunch of venture capital firms who have turned it into their own privately run libertarian paradise.
The city runs like a business, with corporate income tax as low as 1%.
Prospera is the best one to start in. That's why we're here. It has the maximum degree of legal autonomy. It's also a great location for medical tourism.
It's a magical island, free from taxes and other forms of government tyranny, where you can pay for experimental gene therapy in Bitcoin.
What do you think about what's going on there?
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, me and my partners, we were in Susalu last year, so that was a similar setup. And it felt a little bit like the early days of crypto, right? Where nobody really knew what's going to happen, but everybody knew there is something big happening. And that's why Prospera, Vitalia, many of these new models are exactly bringing together these exciting people.
Minicircle in Prospera offers unregulated follostatin gene therapy to anyone ballsy enough to fly out and fire it into their arm. Only a few hundred people have already done so, and one of them is Brian Johnson.
Today, I will be receiving my first gene therapy. I never imagined. I grew up in a small town on a farm with my grandpa, and I never would have imagined that I would be doing gene therapy.
Brian isn't the only one excited by their gene therapy. This idiot on Twitter called it Captain America tech.
This is the smallest my delt will ever be.
Gene therapy right now is about where Ben Franklin was flying the kite. We haven't got to the iPhone yet.
According to independent reports, Minicircle are charging $25,000 for their follistatin gene therapy. If it works, Minicircle's custom plasmids will suppress myostatin and stop it from inhibiting muscle growth, allowing your muscle cells to replicate and expand without the usual biological checks. All the powers of Captain America, right? Not quite. More like all the powers of a bully whippet. But according to Minicircle's promotional material, it can also decrease fat, reverse age acceleration, and lengthen your telomeres. If Minicircle have achieved what they claim, good news. Two sketchy dudes on a pirate island have achieved the biotech equivalent of a mission to Mars. Successful and safe plasmid gene therapy would have massive implications for longevity and biotech as a whole. The likelihood is, though, it's bullshit.
This is me as a kid. This is a kid who was born with one of the effects of the gene therapy I'm about to do. In mice, when they received this gene therapy, they lived 30% longer.
The claims Brian is repeating here are based on this paper, which observed follistatin gene therapy increased lifespan by 32.5%. But in mice, and 8 mice to be precise. Hardly a significant enough sample size, and the study itself was fully funded by BioViva, a biotech company similar to MiniCircle, dedicated to developing gene therapy solutions to the aging process. And they also run sketchy trials abroad to skirt safety regulation. So yeah, more than a little biased when it comes to claiming this tech works. Like stem cells, gene therapy also carries the risk of multiplying the wrong kind of cells. Or in layman's terms, that shit can give you turbo cancer, brah.
Until now, my team and I have avoided gene therapy because it seemed too risky. If a therapy caused, say, cancer in my body, there'd be nothing I could do to reverse the process. What makes MiniCircle's therapy different is that it has a built-in kill switch. If my body reacts badly, I can take the antibiotic tetracycline, instantly killing and deactivating the DNA molecules I've been injected with.
Now personally, I think it's kind of cool to be a scientific pirate taking to the high seas to skirt the FDA's regulation. But you'll be sharing that water with scam artists selling placebos, or worse, brazen bad actors who are injecting their patients knowing full well it will likely cause them harm. This has been the case for decades with unregulated stem cell labs who have exploited vulnerable individuals seeking cures for chronic or terminal conditions. This is obviously evil. But if I'm being generous, it's also a grey area. Under the Right to Try Act of 2018, American patients with life-threatening illnesses can volunteer for experimental treatments that haven't been fully approved by the FDA yet. And personally, I don't see why that shouldn't be extended even further. If you want to run the gauntlet with unregulated biotech, and you understand the risks, I don't think anyone should stop you. It's the raddest way you can risk your life. Shit's all over extreme sports, if you ask me. Brian is putting his body on the line and is sharing the results. Are those results perfectly scientific? No. Can all the tech he's using be trusted? Fuck no.
Finished up. It's high UV index, it's like 11 right now. I need to test out the follistatin therapy, so I think I'm gonna run to the car.
It might be stupid. It might be ego-driven, and it might ultimately be fruitless. But personally, I think there's nobility in the attempt. Suffice to say, I wasn't quite sold on stem cells or experimental gene therapy just yet. Having already sliced off some cancer, I wasn't sure I wanted to roll the dice on injecting some more. Lost among the sales pitches, I was glad to run into Andrew Steele. Author, YouTuber, and long-time educator in the longevity space, he wasn't here to sell me on anything other than longevity itself.
It is our greatest humanitarian challenge to deal with aging. In fact, it causes about 2/3 of deaths globally. So 100,000 people die every single day of aging. And that to me seems like a huge moral imperative to do something about it.
Brian might be longevity's most recognisable face, but many in the space are highly critical of his methods.
Why do you think Brian Johnson has blocked you on Twitter?
Well, I know exactly why Brian Johnson has blocked me on Twitter, and it's because I suggested, so he's reportedly worth $400 million. And I suggested that perhaps he should use some of that $400 million to fund a trial into something called metformin. This is a diabetes drug that we think might extend people's longevity, but we need to do a proper human trial to find out. And that trial is looking for a couple of tens of millions of dollars to get it over the line where it can be conducted. Take 3 to 5 years to find out if this works. Now, Brian Johnson takes metformin, so it should really be in his interest to find out if this drug actually does something, or if it's even shortening his life. We just don't know at this point. And Brian, basically, the first thing he did was he told me to go and work for the US government, in spite of the fact that I was living in the UK at the time. I could have done his background a bit better. But then basically progressed fairly rapidly to a blog.
Right.
And it just really surprised me because he claims to love the haters. And he does love to screenshot these negative tweets about his appearance or about his crazy regimen. But as soon as people approach him with scientific criticism, he's very quick to reach for that block button. There are some cool investable opportunities in longevity. There are 20 or 30 companies working on something called senolytic treatment, which kills aging cells in your body. So this is something where there's a decent amount of private investment. The problem is, some of these things are such long shots, the only way that we can fund them is if we all do it together, and the best way for doing that, problematic that sometimes is the taxation system. The fact that the aging population is a problem is essentially because older people, unfortunately can be very expensive.
Yeah.
If you get something like dementia, we don't have any particularly good treatments yet, and what that means is we have to care for you for years, maybe decades, before something actually takes your life. And even if you don't go to the point of actually having full-blown dementia, you're more frail, you're less independent. This means you might no longer be able to hold down a job, you might get an illness and have to quit work, you might have a relative who has to quit work to take care of you. There's this enormous hit to the economy. This is being really hard-headed and cold and it's all about the bottom line here, but governments care about this stuff.
It's no surprise that the philosophy of don't die would find its home in Los Angeles. It's the city of barely surviving, a city that doesn't care if you live or die, built on the promise of immortality, where the absurdly rich and the insanely poor are separated only by luck, determination, a 10-foot electrified fence and a mile-long driveway. A city born on life support, artificially sustained by aqueducts that ship water in from 200 miles away, where you can get your palm read and your lips filled in the same strip mall that doubles as a Korean church on Sundays. A city caught in a tug-of-war between lifespan and lifestyle. Extreme poverty, total decadence. Woo-woo bullshit, high-tech hubris. Fitness freaks, fentanyl zombies. Tres leche, kale salad. A city where everyone runs to nowhere and drives to everywhere. A city of contradiction then. The perfect place for Brian Johnson to call home.
I still can't believe those donuts. I haven't seen...
You're slowing down near it, man. Are you sure you're not tempted? We'll see.
We'll come back to it.
So naturally, you're quite an introverted person, really. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I do go inwards.
But you've recently, in the last few years, you've been forcing yourself onto everyone's timeline. You're on the For You page of a lot of people who probably don't want to see you. And so, how do you deal with that? As an introverted person, how do you deal with that new notoriety?
I love every second of it. I sincerely do. I love the game. I love the back and forth. I love the friction it causes in the world.
The past few years, I've been endeavoring to build the world's best anti-aging protocol. And to do so...
After 6 weeks on my own budget blueprint, I had become an early rising, shadow-dwelling, gruel-guzzling, pill-popping, data-driven machine. I had never felt more alive or more robotic. The Super Veggie as prepared by Brian's team. I am living the lifestyle. I can't say I'm loving life eating Super Veggie, but it's going to be longer. This little plastic safety thing, you break it off, and that way it releases the button. And then you launch a little piece of metal into your arm. Ow! And then it'll be ready to go in 2 hours, and that will give you 10 days of continuous glucose measurement. I was now getting continuous data on my resting heart rate, blood glucose levels, heart rate variability, and sleep quality, which led me to discover that one night of moderate drinking had an oversized impact on my general health. It raised my heart rate the following day and tanked my HRV. My Whoop successfully scared me sober. It had become a priest on my wrist, shaming me for the sin of suboptimal sleep routine and one too many sambucas. All my health, all my decisions, the success of my life was now reduced to a daily score. I started to look forward to it every morning as a form of validation. I had successfully gamified my health at the cost of my freedom and a monthly subscription fee.
It's the most offensive thing you can suggest to any person in this moment.
Is to give up is that there is a moral imperative to give up your free will. And you believe that?
I do.
So this.
Oh yeah, so like this head here. So it basically just stamp it out. It delivers these pulses of light. It feels like you're getting branded.
Right, that sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty painful. So we do my entire body, and when we're done, it looks like I have like tire marks over my entire body.
Yeah, that doesn't sound. And yet you see there's a benefit to that.
That's right.
I've been doing a little bit of your protocol for a while now, and I've seen a lot of good benefits. I mean, for one, I used to have 0 hours of exercise a week.
Yeah.
Now I have 6, and I'm like,
whoa!
No, this is great. But one negative side effect I must
Yeah.
admit I have is, well, I'm quite an anxious person, and thinking all the time about death, thinking about, oh, what's this line in my head, and oh, I've got a twinge in my neck, and like, by embracing the don't die philosophy, you are kind of putting death at the center of your life, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is that, do you feel that, or for you is it, I mean, all this makes me anxious.
Yeah.
But you're comfortable here.
Oh, interesting. I'm sorry you go through that.
That's the way I go through life, cynical and anxious. But I'm figuring it out.
That's a fun pairing.
Yeah, it can be.
I don't know. I guess for the first time in my life, I guess I'm kind of okay with everything. I'm okay with death. I'm okay with life. I'm okay with hate. Like, I'm just kind of good.
Thinking about not dying all the time is definitely making me go a little bit crazy.
In some crucial ways, living such a disciplined, data-driven life might have been affecting my health negatively. I became obsessed with my metrics and bitterly annoyed when they didn't seem to react with the changes I was making. Measuring my sleep so intensely was also keeping me up at night. I started to get frustrated when I wouldn't go to sleep immediately and ended up lying on the sofa, scrolling through my health metrics.
I ended up calling a doctor for an appointment yesterday because of a red dot on my nose that's been there for years, it turns out. I went back and watched a few old videos and realised that red dot has been on my fucking nose for over a year. But I saw it in the mirror and I started getting freaking out, thinking it was a fucking cancer or something, so I called the doctor about it. Yeah. So there is definitely some downsides to trying not to die every second of your life. Psychological ones. Probably physical ones too, because I'm not fucking sleeping.
After a few weeks of actively trying to bring my blood pressure down with diet and an overcommitment to cardio, my blood pressure reading actually went up, leading to this embarrassing and genuinely unstaged tantrum. Maybe it was all those years of door dashing fried chicken to my sofa, or maybe it was my mostly sedentary lifestyle as a slavish content gremlin.
Yeah, this is all your fault for you lot for watching and enabling me.
Or maybe it was the sudden stress of obsessively checking my body for minor changes and giving them the existential weight of a literal fight against death. Who knows? I wondered how Brian dealt with all this. Not practically, but psychologically. Maybe I needed to take another page out of his book. Luckily, he had written one. Don't Die isn't just Brian Johnson's mantra, sales pitch, and t-shirt slogan. It is also the name of his first book. Most longevity experts seem to write books based on the current science and the data behind their studies. Brian has taken a novel approach. Literally, he self-published a piece of philosophical fiction under the pseudonym Zero. It's the story of a man named Scribe who assembles his closest friends on the final day of his life, all to introduce them to a new friend named Blueprint. Other characters are similarly named: Model Builder, Relentless, Dark Humour, Farm Boy. But they aren't really characters. They are all meant to represent different sides of the author's personality. Reading Don't Die doesn't give you the answers to its title. Instead, it's a whistle-stop tour inside Brian's brain. So I figured the best way to understand Brian Johnson was to bring Brian Johnson's words and characters to life. I sort of see it as your version of the Last Supper. You know? The Last Supper before sacrificing yourself to the blueprint, right? Dying a little bit every day to save the world, right?
That's very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that's what we're doing.
Of course, in the other room is a normal buffet of great food for anyone who wishes to stress eat. But I also thought we might take a day and see what Blueprint is up to for lunch. And maybe, just maybe, anyone who wants could try that. It won't kill you. Really, it won't. Actually, it could even do the opposite. Is this a joke? It looks like it's just in between the stage of being a caterpillar and a butterfly. It's goo. It's all just goo. It's pre-masticated. That's the technical term, blended. If an algorithm told you exactly what to eat, when, and you were promised that you would never feel hungry again, and that it would be anti-aging, anti-inflammatory, and let you live naturally and healthily as long as possible, would you do it?
Don't die. Don't die.
As we prepared to shoot my wholly indulgent dream sequence, Brian and I had a conversation about self-awareness and repression in the closet. There is some conflict in you, or at least there was when you wrote the book. And was the book a way of like resolving that conflict?
Yeah, it was to surface it all and be transparent about it.
So, this is Dark Humour.
That's right.
Dark Humour's my favourite character, by the way. Yeah.
Me too.
Thought so. He's the one I relate to most. So, self-harm.
Yeah, self-harm.
Would you say that's like an intrinsic part of your character that you kind of have to suppress?
That used to be the case.
Because I mean, those train tracks you're putting on yourself in the clinic.
Honestly,
it's a form of self-harm, man.
Honestly, okay, great insight. Agreed. I'm just doing self-harm in a constructive way, in the form of therapies, but legit.
Farm boy. This sort of represents your youth, right? Your earliest self.
Yeah.
And also Zero is another one of your personas.
Yes.
That you're on Twitter as, you're writing. I do see a little bit of a pattern there that it's like you want to go back to Zero.
Yes.
Is there not some element of your protocol which is about recapturing a youth?
Yes.
That maybe you missed out on?
Yes, exactly right. I want to go back and relive.
In some ways, I felt sorry for Brian. He lost his religion, and in doing so, he lost his ultimate safety net and a community he obviously felt very safe in. Is there not a little part of you that thinks that maybe you're kind of recreating the logic of religion in the blueprint?
Yeah, I mean, most likely, if anything's true, it's the irony of my own self-awareness, right? As self-aware as I am, I'm equally unself-aware. And so as much as I talk about this past thing, I'm probably replicating the identical thing in a different form. So I'm absolutely open to for me being unaware of this meta phenomena. That's me. So I really am trying to be a positive influence in people's minds. Even if they disagree with me, they can pattern match that I'm like others who have cared for them in their life. Parents or friends or loved ones.
Sort of Heavenly Father. With his strong desire for community and a radical approach to living, I did worry that Brian had all the makings of a cult leader. You're building these groups of people, was it 150 different sects?
Groups, around the world, yeah.
Is there not a danger of maybe inadvertently starting a cult?
I mean, I joke that it is a cult, and our malicious aims are for you to go to bed on time and eat your vegetables.
You jokingly call it a cult, and then you also jokingly call your olive oil snake oil.
Yeah.
You can hide a lot behind self-consciousness.
Yeah.
I think Shakespeare said it best. What is it? Many a true thing said in jest.
Yes.
At least with his insistence on staying alive, there was little chance of a Brian Johnson Jonestown massacre. Forget poison, Kool-Aid wouldn't even be allowed on the blueprint. What kind of people do you find are drawn to it?
People who are naturally inclined towards health and wellness, people who have had a brush with health, those who have had family and friends who've had a brush with health. It's just saying that health is forgotten until it's the only thing that matters. And they've gone through some experience in life that has shaken them and they're like, nah, this is real.
Do you think there is a non-zero chance that Brian Johnson will be alive in the 25th century?
Yes, I do. This is a new addition that we've had for a month.
You bring a new meaning to going nowhere fast. Because you're staying at home, you're eating as little as possible, you're getting as much sleep as possible. In some way, are you not like putting yourself in stasis?
Yes.
Almost?
Yes.
And what are you trying to survive till for that reason?
Yeah. Why?
Yeah. What? Don't die, right?
Yeah.
That's the philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you not dying for?
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, great.
Yeah.
But like, what is it in the future that you're so eager to see?
Yeah. I love this moment right now. I love that you're here. I love that we're doing this video. I love the conversation. I love being alive.
And why shirt off for this, by the way?
Sorry?
Why shirt off for this?
I just think it's more cinematically interesting.
We are in the process of giving birth to a new form of intelligence, more capable of certain tasks than we will ever be. We are simply its shepherd. Our only chance is creating and training an intelligence so profoundly strong it can cancel out our mistakes and bring us into a new era of prosperity.
When I was growing up in the church, the ethics and shame didn't interest me all that much. I stuck around mostly for the stories.
Don't do this at home, kids. Not worth it.
Partly because of that religious childhood, I've always been sensitive to the prophetic overtones when tech bros talk about AI.
For someone not following where AI is at, this may sound like gibberish and nuts.
Yeah.
If you look at it from just how fast the speed of intelligence has been progressing, even in the past 2 years, it's fast, and it's faster than we can comprehend.
You're hoping, at least in part, that this superintelligence will be able to sustain Brian Johnson as he is now.
Yes.
So you do hope for that there's maybe this superintelligence coming, and with the rate of things, Moore's law and exponential growth as it is, it's almost certainly on its way, and your hope is that it can bring you a degree of immortality.
Yeah, I never talk about immortality because it breaks the human brain.
It does, but okay, life extension at least.
Yeah, I talk about tomorrow. But wanting tomorrow is something we all understand, and that is effectively the same idea as living for tomorrow. Because in that experience, until waiting to living forever, living for tomorrow in our minds is living forever. On the time scales that we're contemplating superintelligence, we don't know how long we have, and it's not certain whether we're going to solve aging. It's not certain when we're going to solve it. So my endeavor is not necessarily to solve aging, it's to solve the want to live. With death being inevitable and facing existential crisis, that puts us in a psychological disposition where we're like, whatever, because we're going to die anyways. So what does it even matter? This is kind of like when in Mormonism, the scriptures prophesy of the world going to hell. They prophesy of countries at war, and they prophesy of all these terrible things, blood running in the streets. And so as a member of that community, you celebrate when shit goes wrong in the world. You're like, look, prophecy's coming true. Things are on the right track. I'm doing well. And so you celebrate bad things happening. You don't stop and say, I need to fix this, or I need to stop this, or I need to somehow be useful to the human race stopping it. And so it's this twisted incentive where you want bad things to happen because it confirms your belief.
Whereas you have more of a positive outlook. You are looking forward to the future. You think this is the best time that there's ever been to be alive, and the future is only going to be better.
And I'm saying the most important thing is, as a species, we rally to say, we can do this. And we have a lot at stake, and we have a lot we're going to lose, including these radically extended lifespans and a lot more cool stuff. So I'm trying to flip the zeitgeist away from this martyrdom, defeatist disposition to a want for life.
Do you consider yourself a prophet?
I don't think that's something I can self-label.
When your dad left, your biological father, because you were very close to your stepfather as well, is that right? Was he excommunicated from the church, or was it not quite that severe?
You know what? I don't know. He left. Yeah.
And he had a drug problem, right?
He did.
Your dad's on the protocol now, a little
He
bit.
is.
Your son too?
Yes.
Whole family?
Yeah, one of my children. The other two are not. Yeah.
Is that because they're not quite old enough yet, and you think it needs to be sort of a conscious choice?
They're with their mother, and they have this. They're kind of stuck in between whether to go with mom on her religious beliefs or whether to. And so far, they've kind of cozied up to mom, and they've kind of kept me at arm's length. And so my middle child, Talmadge, who's with me now, he embraced me at 16, and he left the religion. So the family's kind of fractured. We get along really well. We always have, up until we got a divorce. My eldest son was 11. I was like super dad. I was so devoted to be such an exceptional father. So it's been very painful for me and for them. We're just divided, and so that religious authority is a more powerful authority in their lives than I am.
And so, creating this protocol, are you not trying to create a force that's even more powerful than that religion?
Yeah, I view my born into religion as inadequate. Is basically it is incapable of delivering on its promises. It cannot do what it says that it will do.
It's been its sales pitch for time immemorial, right?
Yeah.
Is that, hey, believe this,
Yes.
you might live forever.
Yes.
And you're like, that's bullshit, though.
It's not true.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm trying to say, for the first time in human history, I'm offering up a potential reward that requires a lot of hard work, but it's the first time that can potentially deliver on the actual idea.
One thing that Brian said that I guess I've been turning over in my head is this notion of he's just trying to live for tomorrow, right? And when he said that, I was just like, well, you're just trying to make what you're doing sound normal. But he's not wrong. We're all trying to outrun the Reaper to one extent or another. We all want to see tomorrow. Even someone who's 120 is like, they still at least want that next day. We're all going to die. We all come to the end of the path one day. But deep down, so many of us spend our lives kind of in denial about that fact. In that way, Brian is just like us, except he understands that this denial is illogical unless you're willing to do something about it. Maybe he's more sane than the rest of us, or at least able to deal with an anxiety that for most people is exhausting to meditate on every day. Don't die. Fuck. Maybe Brian is right. With a bit of determination and discipline, maybe I could live forever for realsies. I just had to stick to the blueprint, work out for 6 hours a week, never drink or smoke weed. Who am I kidding? I'd really rather die than miss out on all my favourite substances. Besides, beyond the research chemicals, Brian really wasn't offering anything new. Isn't don't die just extreme healthy living mixed in with some classic Mormon self-denial, repackaged for the age of big data and secular cynicism? With that realization, I also realized I was in LA and there was a bunch of substances here I wanted to sample.
What?
Something like chill, what's the THC levels?
So, are you more interested in the flower or joint?
Since I was now chemically suggestible, I figured there was one path to immortality that I hadn't investigated yet. Right, so we come to the Mormon temple in Los Angeles, which, it's pretty big. Definitely looks like a temple.
I am Jesus Christ. My Father sent me that I might be lifted up upon the cross. Behold the wounds which pierced my side, and also the prints of the nails in my hands and feet.
Was there anything that stood out to either of you as you listened?
To be honest, at first it was the American accent.
I don't know if you have heard it before, but we do baptisms for the dead.
Yeah,
Okay.
So if I got like baptized in behalf of my grandma who's passed away, and she's never heard about God or Jesus Christ, and she can choose to say yes, I want that baptism, or I'm good.
So that means basically all your family could be in heaven with you in that case, and so it's a way of, it defeats death for your whole family, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
When you've read as many longevity studies as I have, you do see some patterns emerge. Beyond the healthy living and restraint, you'll always hear the old-timers talk about the importance of community, family, and a continued sense of purpose. It's obviously not a coincidence that these things are also key to living a good life. This all started because I couldn't handle the existential crisis of getting a mole removed. Another bad blood pressure reading or a night of drinking could send me on another obsessive and expensive spiral. I can't make a documentary every time I have a health scare or worry about every little thing that could marginally contribute to my overall health. I'm keeping the workouts and the Whoop band, but I'm not going to be scared of life just to avoid death. As for longevity itself, well, I think it's a worthy cause and a vital field of inquiry. It's doing what all good science should, helping us understand nature and figuring out how we might overcome it. But it's a field that will always have to contend with charlatans and scam artists, because it contains a prophecy that people leapfrog logic to believe in. A promise of an infinite horizon. Still, I pray we live to see advances that fix the fragility of old age and relieve the burden on those we leave behind. When I started writing this thing, I figured it would probably end on a call for moderation. Something trite like, hey, it's not worth killing yourself trying to live forever, but take care of your health because you only get one life, you know? Nah, I think that's bullshit. If you've got it in you, lay down your life in the service of something extreme. Devote yourself to doing something first, best, or fastest. Do something wild. Do something dangerous. Thank God for extremists. They go there so we don't have to. The contrarians, the obsessives, the prophets, visionaries, and explorers. And thank God too for all the fools who died failing to become one. Hey, don't forget to download War Thunder. There's a link below.